Welcome to Green Marlborough. My name's Jennifer Boudry. Today we're going to talk about the low-carbon diet. And with us is Susan Altman from the Massachusetts Climate Action Network. Welcome to the show, Susan.
Thanks, Jen. It's a pleasure.
We're going to be talking about this phenomenal book and the program that it's about called The Low-Carbon Diet, How to Lose 5,000 Pounds in 1 month?
30 days,
30
approximately.
days.
Yep.
First, I want to talk about what this means, carbon, and why we need to go on a low-carbon diet.
Carbon is in virtually all the energy sources that we use in this country. And since we use so much energy, Americans use about 25% of the energy around the world, every time we use energy, we release carbon into the atmosphere, and it's helping to cause the Earth to warm up more rapidly. That's what global warming is.
A carbon footprint is something that measures how much carbon we use, and you can actually calculate your carbon footprint. For example, if you look at your electric bill, which is measured in kilowatts, 1 kilowatt equals about 1 pound of carbon emissions. Natural gas, 1 therm, is about 11 pounds of carbon emissions. Diesel or oil and gasoline, about 20 pounds per gallon. And the last one is flights. If you take an airplane, it's about 0.7 pounds of carbon per mile. Carbon emissions, calculating your carbon footprint, all leads to, cutting out the carbon, right?
Right. Going
on a low-carbon diet. And I think that you really are the expert, in some way of the low-carbon diet.
Well, I'm not, actually. I'm an acolyte of the founder of the Empowerment Institute, a man named David Gershon, who wrote The Low Carbon Diet and many other books that are really, really helpful. He's a leadership guru. He does all sorts of trainings to help people interact better and become more empowered and become more sustainable. And he really lives this in his whole life. So I am just one of many thousands of people who have said, he's onto something wonderful here and I want to be part of it.
I agree. When I first started looking at different ways to educate people about sustainability and energy efficiency, I saw a lot of different things, and I found the Low Carbon Diet book, and I said, this is it. I haven't found anything better. As an instructional designer, someone who designs educational programs, I thought it was very simple, very clear, very objective-oriented, very fun, builds community, it helps you become more sustainable. It's a whole package.
It does all those things, yeah. And one of its secrets is that it works through small groups of people, which is just so much more powerful in terms of reaching solutions than it is to sit in your living room by yourself and go through the chart and say, oh yeah, I'm gonna drive less this week. I'm gonna eat one less meal that has red meat in it. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And before you know it, you've forgotten all about it. When you're with a group, not only is it more fun, but other people are holding you responsible. They're expecting you to show up the next meeting with something accomplished. So you're just more likely to do it.
This book, by the way, I should mention an independent publisher, Most Likely to Save the Planet Book Award. This is in their new edition, I just noticed, so it's valued by a lot of people. So this book has a lot of good information in it. It's been used as a guide for many different groups in many different communities. I know we've had 2 groups, low-carbon diet groups in Marlborough, early this year and late last year, I think. And I know I took one in Newton a few years ago. You're from Medford. You've had the low-carbon diet groups in Medford.
Yes.
And you're aware of other communities, too, that have gone through it.
There are a number of communities that are really out in front. Boston is one that I think is doing amazing work. Not only have they run at least a dozen low-carbon diet teams within the last year and a half, but they've also reached out to people in limited income communities. And Mass Climate Action Network is very strong in towns like Marlborough. The ring between 128 and 495 is our strength. And the Boston group has seen that without getting a larger group of people involved, we're not going to be able to get the kinds of reductions that we have to get as a country. So they're working really hard to try and bring this to people for whom it makes perfect sense, but who don't have the same resources and access that some of the others of us have. So they've probably given this to hundreds of people at this point, and they're doing a great public service. And there are teams in 32 communities around Massachusetts that MCAN has trained, and there are lots of other teams. Every week I probably find out about another one in a church community or through a business that has started up, and so they're all over the place. It's catching on in a very big way.
I spoke to 2 different groups in 2 different churches within the past month and introduced the low-carbon diet to them as a possible program, and there was some interest. If you're interested in community, and if you're interested in saving money, if you're interested in doing something environmentally responsible, this is a terrific guide.
Yes, I wanted to say that it's an especially good thing for church groups because they're institutionally set up to do something like this. They meet on a regular basis. They're always in the same place. You know where to go. People already know each other. They love small groups. They like to talk to each other. Yeah. And very many of them have environmental or social stewardship groups, which are a great place to start something like this.
And groups, I should mention, are about 6 to 8 people in a group usually.
Maybe more than that. The guideline that the book sets down is 5 to 8 households. Okay. So you could really, if you wanted to bring your whole family to a meeting, you could get 18, 20 people. It would be lively. It would be somewhat more disorganized probably, but it might be more fun. The ones I've been involved with, though, I think are more on the lower end. One representative comes from a family because families are very busy and they don't have a lot of time, and if you have a couple of kids at home, somebody's got to stay with the kids. So yeah, the
topics in the book cover things like energy efficiency, water conservation, transportation, recycling.
Yep. The carbon reduction things are what this book focuses on, and one of the nice things about it is that it's divided into 24 topics. And those topics are in 3 major categories: things that you can do once and you're basically done with them; things that you have to do on a repetitive basis, like taking slightly shorter showers, or changing your diet, or driving less. And then a 3rd category is working with other people. But one of the really nice things about this book is that no one says, you have to do this. Right. This is the way to do it. Say, look, these are all ways that will get you there. Each way has a number of pounds of carbon associated with it. So if you stop eating meat 1 day a week as a household, I think you'll lose 700 pounds right there. All you have to do is figure out what makes sense for your lifestyle and your family and add up the results. So you don't have to do any fancy calculations. You just have to have a calculator or be good at doing addition in your head, and you're there. Well, I do want to point out that people have been worried about being a facilitator or a team initiator because they think, I'm not an expert in this. I don't know enough about this. I'm just starting myself. And it's important for people to realize that everybody is someplace on a journey, and that you do not have to be an expert in anything. And really the most important role for the team initiator is to get 5 or 8 households together and get them to that first meeting. And once you've done that, you can split this up any way you want. And each meeting can be led by a different person, or you can say, you know what, I feel like I'm not the right person to lead this group. I would like somebody else to do it. Or nobody can lead it. It can just happen. You can say, look, we have 2 hours. We need to go through the materials in this section. Who wants to do it today? So you do not have to be an expert, and it's a totally low-key, non-threatening way to do something really good for your pocketbook and for the planet.
Yeah, the guidelines couldn't be more friendly or simpler. I love this book. You can literally sit down just with this page and go through it and find it very, very easy and enjoyable.
Right.
So.